Warren Buffett.
Warren Edward Buffett is an American business magnate, investor, and philanthropist. He is widely considered the most successful investor of the 20th century. Buffett is the chairman, CEO and largest shareholder of Berkshire Hathaway and consistently ranked among the world's wealthiest people. He was ranked as the world's wealthiest person in 2008 and is the third wealthiest person in 2011. In 2012, American magazine Time named Buffett one of the most influential people in the world. Buffett is called the Wizard of Omaha, Oracle of Omaha, or the Sage of Omaha, and is noted for his adherence to the value investing philosophy and for his personal frugality despite his immense wealth. Buffett is also a notable philanthropist, having pledged to give away 99% of his fortune to philanthropic causes, primarily via the Gates Foundation. On April 11, 2012, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, for which he successfully completed treatment in September 2012.
Early life.
Buffett was born in 1930 in Omaha, Nebraska, the second of three children and only son of U.S. Representative Howard Buffett, a fierce critic of the interventionist New Deal domestic and foreign policy, and his wife Layla, née Stahl. Buffett's DNA report revealed that his paternal ancestors hail from northern Scandinavia, while his maternal ancestors hail from Iberia, present-day Spain, or Estonia. It's been also reported that Warren is not related to Jimmy Buffett despite the same surname. Buffett began his education at Rose Hill Elementary School in Omaha. In 1942, his father was elected to the first of four terms in the United States Congress, and after moving with his family to Washington, D.C., Warren finished elementary school, attended Alice Deal Junior High School, and graduated from Woodrow Wilson High School in 1947, where his senior yearbook picture reads, "Likes math. A future stockbroker." Even as a child, Buffett displayed an interest in making and saving money. He went door-to-door selling chewing gum, Coca-Cola, or weekly magazines. For a while, he worked in his grandfather's grocery store. While still in high school he was successful in making money by delivering newspapers, selling golf balls and stamps, and detailing cars, among other means. Filing his first income tax return in 1944, Buffett took a $35 deduction for the use of his bicycle and watch on his paper route. In 1945, in his sophomore year of high school, Buffett and a friend spent $25 to purchase a used pinball machine, which they placed in the local barber shop. Within months, they owned several machines in different barber shops. Buffett's interest in the stock market and investing also dated to his childhood, to the days he spent in the customer's lounge of a regional stock brokerage near the office of his father's own brokerage company. On a trip to New York City at the age of 10, he made a point to visit the New York Stock Exchange. At the age of 11, he bought 3 shares of Citi's Service Preferred for himself, and 3 for his sister. While in high school he invested in a business owned by his father and bought a farm worked by a tenant farmer. Buffett entered college as a freshman in 1947 at the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania. He studied there for 2 years and joined the Alpha Sigma Phi fraternity. In the year 1950, when he entered his junior year, he transferred to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln where at the age of 19, he graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. After the completion of his undergraduate studies, Buffett enrolled at Columbia Business School after learning that Benjamin Graham, author of The Intelligent Investor, one of his favorite books on investing, and David Dodd, 2 well-known securities analysts, taught there. He earned a Master of Science in Economics from Columbia in 1951. Buffett also attended the New York Institute of Finance. In Buffett's own words.
Business career.
Buffett was employed from 1951 to 1954 at Buffett Falk and Company, Omaha as an investment salesman. From 1954 to 1956 at Graham Newman Corporation, New York as a securities analyst. From 1956 to 1969 at Buffett Partnership, Limited, Omaha as a general partner. And from 1970, present at Berkshire Hathaway Incorporated, Omaha as its chairman, CEO. In 1950, at the age of 20, Buffett had made and saved $9,800, nearly $94,000 inflation adjusted for the 2012 US dollars. In April 1952, Buffett discovered Graham was on the board of GEICO Insurance. Taking a train to Washington, D.C. On a Saturday, he knocked on the door of GEICO's headquarters until a janitor allowed him in. There he met Lorimer Davidson, GEICO's vice president, and the two discussed the insurance business for hours. Davidson would eventually become Buffett's lifelong friend and a lasting influence, and later recalled that he found Buffett to be an extraordinary man after only 15 minutes. Buffett graduated from Columbia and wanted to work on Wall Street, however, both his father and Ben Graham urged him not to. He offered to work for Graham for free, but Graham refused. Buffett returned to Omaha and worked as a stockbroker while taking a Dale Carnegie public speaking course. Using what he learned, he felt confident enough to teach an investment principles night class at the University of Nebraska-Omaha. The average age of his students was more than twice his own. During this time he also purchased a Sinclair Texaco gas station as a side investment. However, this did not turn out to be a successful business venture. In 1952 Buffett married Susan Thompson at Dundee Presbyterian Church, and the next year they had their first child, Susan Alice Buffett. In 1954, Buffett accepted a job at Benjamin Graham's partnership. His starting salary was $12,000 a year, approximately $105,000 inflation adjusted for the 2012 US dollars. There he worked closely with Walter Schloss. Graham was a tough man to work for. He was adamant that stocks provide a wide margin of safety after weighting the trade-off between their price and their intrinsic value. The argument made sense to Buffett, but he questioned whether the criteria were too stringent and caused the company to miss out on big winners that had more qualitative values. That same year the Buffetts had their second child, Howard Graham Buffett. In 1956, Benjamin Graham retired and closed his partnership. At this time Buffett's personal savings were over $174,000, $1.47 million inflation adjusted to 2012 US dollars, and he started Buffett Partnership Limited, an investment partnership in Omaha. In 1957, Buffett had 3 partnerships operating the entire year. He purchased a 5-bedroom stucco house in Omaha, where he still lives, for $31,500. In 1958 the Buffett's third child, Peter Andrew Buffett, was born. Buffett operated 5 partnerships the entire year. In 1959, the company grew to 6 partnerships operating the entire year, and Buffett was introduced to Charlie Munger. By 1960, Buffett had 7 partnerships operating: Buffett Associates, Buffett Fund, Dacey, M.D., Glenoff, Mobuff and Underwood. He asked one of his partners, a doctor, to find 10 other doctors willing to invest $10,000 each in his partnership. Eventually 11 agreed, and Buffett pooled their money with a mere $100 original investment of his own. In 1961, Buffett revealed that Sanborn Map Company accounted for 35% of the partnership's assets. He explained that in 1958 Sanborn stock sold at only $45 per share when the value of the Sanborn investment portfolio was $65 per share. This meant that buyers valued Sanborn stock at -$20 per share and were unwilling to pay more than 70 cents on the dollar for an investment portfolio with a map business thrown in for nothing. This earned him a spot on the board of Sanborn.
As a millionaire.
In 1962, Buffett became a millionaire because of his partnerships, which in January 1962 had an excess of $7,178,500, of which over $1,025,000 belonged to Buffett. Buffett merged all partnerships into one partnership. Buffett invested in and eventually took control of a textile manufacturing firm, Berkshire Hathaway. In 1962, Warren Buffett began buying shares in Berkshire from Seabury Stanton, the owner, whom he later fired. Buffett's partnerships began purchasing shares at $7.60 per share. In 1965, when Buffett's partnerships began purchasing Berkshire aggressively, they paid $14.86 per share while the company had working capital of $19 per share. This did not include the value of fixed assets, factory and equipment. Buffett took control of Berkshire Hathaway at the board meeting and named a new president, Ken Chase, to run the company. In 1966, Buffett closed the partnership to new money. He would go on to claim that the textile business had been his worst trade. He then moved the business into the insurance sector, and, in 1985, the last of the mills that had been the core business of Berkshire Hathaway was sold. Buffett wrote in his letter, "Unless it appears that circumstances have changed, under some conditions added capital would improve results, or unless new partners can bring some asset to the partnership other than simply capital, I intend to admit no additional partners to BPL." In a second letter, Buffett announced his first investment in a private business, Hochschild, Cohn & Company, a privately owned Baltimore department store. In 1967, Berkshire paid out its first and only dividend of 10 cents. In 1969, following his most successful year, Buffett liquidated the partnership and transferred their assets to his partners. Among the assets paid out were shares of Berkshire Hathaway. In 1970, as chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, Buffett began writing his now famous annual letters to shareholders. However, he lived solely on his salary of $50,000 per year, and his outside investment income. In 1979, Berkshire began the year trading at $775 per share, and ended at $1,310. Buffett's net worth reached $620 million, placing him on the Forbes 400 for the first time. In 1973, Berkshire began to acquire stock in the Washington Post Company. Buffett became close friends with Katharine Graham, who controlled the company and its flagship newspaper, and became a member of its board of directors. In 1974, the SEC opened a formal investigation into Warren Buffett and Berkshire's acquisition of WESCO, due to possible conflict of interest. No charges were brought. In 1977, Berkshire indirectly purchased the Buffalo Evening News for $32.5 million. Antitrust charges started, instigated by its rival, the Buffalo Courier-Express. Both papers lost money, until the Courier-Express folded in 1982. In 1979, Berkshire began to acquire stock in ABC. Capital Cities announced $3.5 billion purchase of ABC on March 18, 1985 surprised the media industry, as ABC was 4 times bigger than Capital Cities at the time. Berkshire Hathaway chairman Warren Buffett helped finance the deal in return for a 25% stake in the combined company. The newly merged company, known as Capital Cities ABC, or Cap Cities ABC, was forced to sell off some stations due to FCC ownership rules. Also, the two companies owned several radio stations in the same markets. In 1987, Berkshire Hathaway purchased a 12% stake in Salomon Incorporated, making it the largest shareholder and Buffett the director. In 1990, a scandal involving John Gutfreund, former CEO of Salomon Brothers, surfaced. A rogue trader, Paul Moser, was submitting bids in excess of what was allowed by the Treasury rules. When this was discovered and brought to the attention of Gutfreund, he did not immediately suspend the rogue trader. Gutfreund left the company in August 1991. Buffett became chairman of Salomon until the crisis passed. On September 4, 1991, he testified before Congress. In 1988, Buffett began buying stock in Coca-Cola Company, eventually purchasing up to 7% of the company for $1.02 billion. It would turn out to be one of Berkshire's most lucrative investments, and one which it still holds.
As a billionaire.
Buffett became a billionaire on paper when Berkshire Hathaway began selling Class A shares on May 29, 1990, when the market closed at $7,175 a share. In 1998, in an unusual move, he acquired General Re for stock. In 2002, Buffett became involved with Morris Greenberg at AIG, with General Re providing reinsurance. On March 15, 2005, AIG's board forced Greenberg to resign from his post as chairman and CEO under the shadow of criticism from Eliot Spitzer, former Attorney General of the state of New York. On February 9, 2006, AIG and the New York State Attorney General's office agreed to a settlement in which AIG would pay a fine of $1.6 billion. In 2010, the federal government settled with Berkshire Hathaway for $92 million in return for the firm avoiding prosecution in an AIG fraud scheme, and undergoing corporate governance concessions. In 2002, Buffett entered in $11 billion worth of forward contracts to deliver U.S. dollars against other currencies. By April 2006, his total gain on these contracts was over $2 billion. In 2006, Buffett announced in June that he gradually would give away 85% of his Berkshire holdings to 5 foundations in annual gifts of stock, starting in July 2006. The largest contribution would go to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. In 2007, in a letter to shareholders, Buffett announced that he was looking for a younger successor, or perhaps successors, to run his investment business. Buffett had previously selected Lou Simpson, who runs investments at Geico, to fill that role. However, Simpson is only 6 years younger than Buffett.
Recession starting in 2007.
Buffett ran into criticism during the subprime crisis of 2007 to 2008, part of the recession that started in 2007, that he had allocated capital too early, resulting in suboptimal deals. By American. He wrote for an opinion piece published in the New York Times in 2008. Buffett called the downturn in the financial sector that started in 2007 poetic justice. Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway suffered a 77% drop in earnings during Q3 2008, and several of his later deals suffered large mark-to-market losses. Berkshire Hathaway acquired 10% perpetual preferred stock of Goldman Sachs. Some of Buffett's index put options, European exercise at expiry only, that he wrote, sold, were running at around $6.73 billion mark-to-market losses as of late 2008. The scale of the potential loss prompted the SEC to demand that Berkshire produce a more robust disclosure of factors used to value the contracts. Buffett also helped Dow Chemical pay for its $18.8 billion takeover of Rohm and Haas. He thus became the single largest shareholder in the enlarged group with his Berkshire Hathaway, which provided $3 billion, underlining his instrumental role during the current crisis in debt and equity markets. In 2008, Buffett became the richest person in the world, with a total net worth estimated at $62 billion by Forbes and at $58 billion by Yahoo, overtaking Bill Gates, who had been number 1 on the Forbes list for 13 consecutive years. In 2009, Gates regained the top position on the Forbes list, with Buffett shifted to second place. Both of the men's values dropped to $40 billion and $37 billion respectively. According to Forbes, Buffett lost $25 billion over a 12-month period during 2008-2009. In October 2008, the media reported that Buffett had agreed to buy General Electric, GE, preferred stock. The operation included special incentives. He received an option to buy $3 billion of GE stock, at $22.25, over the 5 years following the agreement, and Buffett also received a 10% dividend, callable within 3 years. In February 2009, Buffett sold some of the Procter & Gamble Company and Johnson & Johnson shares from his portfolio. In addition to suggestions of mistiming, the wisdom in keeping some of Berkshire's major holdings, including the Coca-Cola Company, New York Stock Exchange, KO, which in 1998 peaked at $86, was questioned. Buffett discussed the difficulties of knowing when to sell in the company's 2004 annual report. In March 2009, Buffett said in a cable television interview that the economy had fallen off a cliff. Not only has the economy slowed down a lot, but people have really changed their habits like I haven't seen. Additionally, Buffett feared that inflation levels that occurred in the 1970s, which led to a painful stagflation that lasted many years, might re-emerge. In 2009, Buffett invested $2.6 billion as a part of Swiss Re's campaign to raise equity capital. Berkshire Hathaway already owned a 3% stake, with rights to own more than 20%. Also in 2009, Buffett acquired Burlington Northern Santa Fe Corporation for $34 billion in cash and stock. Alice Schroeder, author of Snowball, said that a key reason for the purchase was to diversify Berkshire Hathaway from the financial industry. Measured by market capitalization in the Financial Times Global 500, Berkshire Hathaway was the 18th largest corporation in the world as of June 2009. In 2009, Buffett divested his failed investment in ConocoPhillips, saying to his Berkshire investors, "The merger with the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railway, BNSF, closed upon BNSF shareholder approval in 1Q 2010. This deal was valued at approximately $34 billion and represented an increase of the previously existing stake of 22%. In June 2010, Buffett defended the credit rating agencies for their role in the U.S. financial crisis, claiming that on March 18, 2011, Goldman Sachs was given Federal Reserve approval to buy back Berkshire's preferred stock, and Goldman Buffett had been reluctant to give up the stock, which averaged $1.4 million in dividends per day, saying, in November 2011, it was announced that over the course of the previous 8 months, Buffett had bought 64 million shares of International Business Machine Corporation, IBM, stock, worth around $11 billion. This unanticipated investment raised his stake in the company to around 5.5%, the largest stake in IBM alongside that of State Street Global Advisors. Buffett had said on numerous prior occasions that he would not invest in technology because he did not fully understand it, so the move came as a surprise to many investors and observers. During the interview, in which he revealed the investment to the public, Buffett stated that he was impressed by the company's ability to retain corporate clients and said, "I don't know of any large company that really has been as specific on what they intend to do and how they intend to do it as IBM." In May 2012, Buffett's acquisition of Media General, consisting of 63 newspapers in the southeastern U.S., was announced. The company was the second newsprint purchase made by Buffett in 1 year. Interim publisher James W. Hobson announced on July 18, 2013 that the press of Atlantic City would be sold to Buffett's BH Media Group by Ibarta, a private holding company based in Pittsburgh, U.S. At the Berkshire shareholders meeting in May 2013, Buffett explained that he did not expect to move the needle at Berkshire with newspaper acquisitions, but he anticipates an annual return of 10%. The Press of Atlantic City became Berkshire's 30th daily newspaper, following other purchases such as Virginia, U.S. Roanoke Times and the Tulsa World in Oklahoma, U.S. During a presentation to Georgetown University students in Washington, D.C. in late September 2013, Buffett compared the U.S. Federal Reserve to a hedge fund and stated that the bank is generating $80 billion or $90 billion a year probably in revenue for the U.S. government. Buffett also advocated further on the issue of wealth equality in society.
Personal life.
Buffett married Susan Buffett, née Thompson, in 1952. They had 3 children, Susie, Howard and Peter. The couple began living separately in 1977, although they remained married until her death in July 2004. Their daughter, Susie, lives in Omaha and does charitable work through the Susan A. Buffett Foundation and is a national board member of Girls, Incorporated. In 2006, on his 76th birthday, Warren married his longtime companion, Astrid Menks, who was then 60 years old. She had lived with him since his wife's departure to San Francisco in 1977. It was Susan Buffett who arranged for the two to meet before she left Omaha to pursue her singing career. All 3 were close and Christmas cards to friends were signed Warren, Susie and Astrid. Susan Buffett briefly discussed this relationship in an interview on The Charlie Rose Show shortly before her death, in a rare glimpse into Buffett's personal life. Warren Buffett disowned his son Peter's adopted daughter, Nicole, in 2006 after she participated in the Jamie Johnson documentary, The 1%. Although his first wife had referred to Nicole as one of her adored grandchildren, Buffett wrote her a letter stating, "I have not emotionally or legally adopted you as a grandchild, nor have the rest of my family adopted you as a niece or a cousin." His 2006 annual salary was about $100,000, which is small compared to senior executive remuneration in comparable companies. In 2007 and 2008, he earned a total compensation of $175,000, which included a base salary of just $100,000. He lives in the same house in the central Dundee neighborhood of Omaha that he bought in 1958 for $31,500, today valued at around $700,000, although he also owns a $4 million house in Laguna Beach, California. In 1989, after having spent nearly $6.7 million of Berkshire's funds on a private jet, Buffett named it the Indefensible. This act was a break from his past condemnation of extravagant purchases by other CEOs and his history of using more public transportation. Buffett is an avid player of bridge, which he plays with fellow fangates. He spends 12 hours a week playing the game. In 2006, he sponsored a bridge match for the Buffett Cup. Modeled on the Ryder Cup in golf, held immediately before it, and in the same city, a team of 12 bridge players from the United States took on 12 Europeans in the event. He is a dedicated, lifelong follower of Nebraska football, and attends as many games as his schedule permits. He supported the hire of Bo Pelini following the 2007 season, stating, "It was getting kind of desperate around here." He watched the 2009 game against Oklahoma from the Nebraska sideline after being named an honorary assistant coach. Warren Buffett worked with Christopher Weber on an animated series with Chief Andy Heward, of DC Entertainment, and then A-Squared Entertainment. The series features Buffett and Munger, and teaches children healthy financial habits for life. Buffett was raised Presbyterian but has since described himself as agnostic. In December 2006 it was reported that Buffett does not carry a cell phone, does not have a computer at his desk, and drives his own automobile, a Cadillac DTS. Buffett reads 5 newspapers every day, beginning with the Omaha World-Herald, which his company bought in 2011. He wears tailor-made suits from the Chinese label Trans. Earlier he wore a Menegildo Zena.
Health.
On April 11, 2012, Buffett was diagnosed with stage I prostate cancer during a routine test. He announced he would begin 2 months of daily radiation treatment from mid-July. However, in a letter to shareholders, Buffett said he felt great, as if I were in my normal excellent health, and my energy level is 100%. On September 15, 2012, Buffett announced that he had completed the full 44-day radiation treatment cycle, saying, "It's a great day for me, and I am so glad to say that's over."
Recognition.
In 1999, Buffett was named the top money manager of the 20th century in a survey by the Carson Group, ahead of Peter Lynch and John Templeton. In 2007, he was listed among Time's 100 most influential people in the world. In 2011, President Barack Obama awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Most recently, Buffett, along with Bill Gates, was named the most influential global thinker in Foreign Policy's 2010 report.
Politics.
In addition to other political contributions over the years, Buffett has formally endorsed and made campaign contributions to Barack Obama's presidential campaign. On July 2, 2008, Buffett attended a $28,500 per plate fundraiser for Obama's campaign in Chicago, hosted by Obama's National Finance Chair, Penny Pritzker, and her husband, as well as Obama advisor Valerie Jarrett. Buffett backed Obama for president, and intimated that John McCain's views on social justice were so far from his own that McCain would need a lobotomy for Buffett to change his endorsement. During the second 2008 U.S. presidential debate, candidates John McCain and Barack Obama, after being asked first by presidential debate mediator Tom Brokaw, Both mentioned Buffett as a possible future Secretary of the Treasury. Later, in the third and final presidential debate, Obama mentioned Buffett as a potential economic advisor. Buffett was also finance advisor to California Republican Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger during his 2003 election campaign.
Writings.
Warren Buffett's writings include his annual reports and various articles. Buffett is recognized by communicators as a great storyteller, as evidenced by his annual letters to shareholders. He warned about the pernicious effects of inflation. In his article The Super Investors of Graham and Doddsville, Buffett rebutted the academic efficient market hypothesis, that beating the S&P 500 was pure chance, by highlighting the results achieved by a number of students of the Graham and Dodd Value Investing School of Thought. In addition to himself, Buffett named Walter J. Schloss, Tom Knapp, Ed Anderson, Tweedy, Brown Incorporated, William J. Rowan, Sequoia Fund, Incorporated, Charles Munger, Buffett's own business partner at Berkshire, Rick Guerin, Pacific Partners, Limited, and Stan Permeter, Permeter Investments. In his November 1999 Fortune article, he warned of investors' unrealistic expectations.
Style.
Buffett's speeches are known for mixing business discussions with attempts at humor. Each year, Buffett presides over Berkshire Hathaway's annual shareholder meeting in the Kest Center in Omaha, Nebraska, an event drawing over 20,000 visitors from both United States and abroad, giving it the nickname Woodstock of Capitalism. Berkshire's annual reports and letters to shareholders, prepared by Buffett, frequently receive coverage by the financial media. Buffett's writings are known for containing quotations from sources as ranging between the Bible and Mae West, as well as advice in a Midwestern folk style, and numerous jokes.
Wealth.
In 2008 he was ranked by Forbes as the richest person in the world with an estimated net worth of approximately $62 billion. In 2009, after donating billions of dollars to charity, Buffett was ranked as the second richest man in the United States with a net worth of $37 billion, with only Bill Gates ranked higher than Buffett. His net worth is up to $47 billion as of March 2010.
Philanthropy.
The following quotation from 1988 highlights Warren Buffett's thoughts on his wealth and why he long planned to reallocate it. From a NY Times article, "I don't believe in dynastic wealth," Warren Buffett said, calling those who grow up in wealthy circumstances members of the Lucky Sperm Club. Buffett has written several times of his belief that, in a market economy, the rich earn outsized rewards for their talents. His children will not inherit a significant proportion of his wealth. This is consistent with statements he has made in the past indicating his opposition to the transfer of great fortunes from one generation to the next. Buffett once commented, "I want to give my kids just enough so that they would feel that they could do anything, but not so much that they would feel like doing nothing." In June 2006, he announced a plan to give away his fortune to charity, with 83% of it going to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. He pledged about the equivalent of 10 million Berkshire Hathaway Class B shares to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, worth approximately $30.7 billion as of June 23, 2006, making it the largest charitable donation in history, and Buffett one of the leaders of philanthrocapitalism. The foundation will receive 5% of the total donation on an annualized basis each July, beginning in 2006. Significantly, however, the pledge is conditional upon the foundation's giving away each year, beginning in 2009, an amount that is at least equal to the value of the entire previous year's gift from Buffett, in addition to 5% of the foundation's net assets. Buffett also will join the board of directors of the Gates Foundation, although he does not plan to be actively involved in the foundation's investments. This is a significant shift from previous statements Buffett has made, having stated that most of his fortune would pass to his Buffett Foundation. The bulk of the estate of his wife, valued at $2.6 billion, went to that foundation when she died in 2004. He also pledged $50 million to the Nuclear Threat Initiative, in Washington, where he has served as an advisor since 2002. In 2006, he auctioned his 2001 Lincoln Town Car on eBay to raise money for Girls, Incorporated. In 2007, he auctioned a luncheon with himself that raised a final bid of $650,100 for the Glide Foundation, which was won by Manish Pabrai and Guy Spear. On June 27, 2008, Cao Danyang, a general manager at Purehope China Growth Investment Fund, won the 2008 5-day online power lunch with Warren Buffett charity auction with a bid of $2,110,100. Auction proceeds benefit the San Francisco Glide Foundation. The following year, executives from Toronto-based Salada Capital paid $1.68 million to dine with Buffett. The June 9, 2012 auction for lunch with Buffett yielded a record figure of $3,456,789. The highest figure paid for lunch with the investor. The Glide auction's winners traditionally dine with Buffett at New York's Smith & Wollensky Steakhouse. The restaurant donates at least $10,000 to Glide each year to host the auction lunch. In a letter to Fortune magazine's website in 2010, Buffett remarked, "This statement was made as part of a joint proposal with Bill Gates to encourage other wealthy individuals to pool some of their fortunes for charitable purposes." Bill Gates's wife Melinda urged people to learn a lesson from the philanthropic efforts of the family that sold its home and gave away half of its value, as detailed in The Power of Half. On December 9, 2010, Buffett, Bill Gates, and Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg signed a promise they called the Gates-Buffett Giving Pledge, in which they promised to donate to charity at least half of their wealth over time, and invited others among the wealthy to donate 50% or more of their wealth to charity.
Public positions. Healthcare.
Buffett has described the healthcare reform under President Barack Obama as insufficient to deal with the costs of healthcare in the U.S., though he supports its aim of expanding health insurance coverage. Buffett compared healthcare costs to a tapeworm, saying that they compromise U.S. economic competitiveness by increasing manufacturing costs. Buffett thinks healthcare costs should head towards 13 to 14% of GDP. Under the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, the CMS actuary has projected healthcare costs will reach almost 20% of GDP by 2020. Buffett said, "If you want the very best, I mean if you want to spend $1 million to prolong your life 3 months in a coma or something, then the US is probably the best, but that other countries spend much less and receive much more in healthcare value, visits, hospital beds, doctors and nurses per capita." Buffett faults the incentives in the U.S. medical industry, that payers reimburse doctors for procedures, fee-for-service, leading to unnecessary care, overutilization, instead of paying for results. Buffett has cited Atul Gawain's 2009 article in The New Yorker as being a useful study in the problems of U.S. healthcare, with its documentation of unwarranted variation in Medicare expenditures between McAllen, Texas and El Paso, Texas. Buffett also brought up the problem of lobbying by the medical industry, saying that they are very focused on maintaining their income.
Taxes.
Buffett stated that he only paid 19% of his income for 2006, $48.1 million, in total federal taxes, due to their being from dividends and capital gains, while his employees paid 33% of theirs, despite making much less money. How can this be fair? Buffett asked, regarding how little he pays in taxes compared to his employees. How can this be right? He also added, Buffett favors the inheritance tax, saying that repealing it would be like choosing the 2020 Olympic team by picking the eldest sons of the gold medal winners in the 2000 Olympics. In 2007, Buffett testified before the Senate and urged them to preserve the estate tax so as to avoid a plutocracy. Some critics have argued that Buffett, through Berkshire Hathaway, has a personal interest in the continuation of the estate tax, since Berkshire Hathaway has benefited from the estate tax in past business dealings and had developed and marketed insurance policies to protect policyholders against future estate tax payments. Buffett believes government should not be in the business of gambling, or legalizing casinos, calling it a tax on ignorance.
Trade deficit.
Buffett views the United States' expanding trade deficit as a trend that will devalue the US dollar and US assets. He believes that the US dollar will lose value in the long run, as a result of putting a larger portion of ownership of US assets in the hands of foreigners. In his letter to shareholders in March 2005, Warren Buffett predicted that in another 10 years' time the net ownership of the US by outsiders would amount to $11 trillion. Author Ann Petfor has adopted the image in her writings and has stated, "He is right. And so the thing we must fear most now, is not just the collapse of banks and investment funds, or of the international financial architecture, but of a sharecropper society, angry at its downfall."
Dollar and gold.
The trade deficit induced Buffett to enter the foreign currency market for the first time in 2002. However, he substantially reduced his stake in 2005 as changing interest rates increased the costs of holding currency contracts. Buffett continues to be bearish on the dollar, and says he is looking to acquire companies which derive a substantial portion of their revenues from outside the United States. Buffett emphasized the non-productive aspect of a gold standard for the USD in 1998 at Harvard. In 1977 Buffett was also quoted as saying about stocks, gold, farmland, and inflation.
Investing in China.
Buffett invested in PetroChina Company Limited and in a rare move, posted a commentary on Berkshire Hathaway's website stating why he would not divest from the company despite calls from some activists to do so, due to its connection with the Sudanese civil war that caused Harvard to divest from the company in 2005. He did, however, sell the stake soon afterwards, sparing him the billions of dollars he would have lost had he held on to the company in the midst of the steep drop in oil prices beginning in the summer of 2008. In October 2008, Buffett invested in new energy automobile business by paying $230 million for 10% of BYD Company, SEHK, 1211, which runs a subsidiary of electric automobile manufacturer BYD Auto. In less than 1 year, the investment has reaped him over 500% return of profit.
Tobacco.
During the RJ Nabisco, Incorporated hostile takeover fight in 1987, Buffett was quoted as telling John Gutfreund, speaking at Berkshire Hathaway Incorporated's 1994 annual meeting, Buffett said investments in tobacco are
Coal.
In 2007, Buffett's Pacific Corp., a subsidiary of his Mid-American Energy Company, canceled 6 proposed coal-fired power plants. These included Utah's Intermountain Power Project Unit 3, Jim Bridger Unit 5, and 4 proposed plants previously included in Pacific Corp's Integrated Resource Plan. The cancellations came in the wake of pressure from regulators and citizen groups, including a petition drive organized by Salt Lake City commercial real estate broker Alexander Lofton directed at Buffett personally. The 1,600 petitioners, who described themselves in a letter to Buffett as a collection of citizens, business owners and managers, service professionals, public servants, and organization representatives. Your friends and new customers here in Utah, explained that, in their view, any further expansion of coal generation in Utah would compromise our health, obscure our viewsheds, shrink and contaminate our watersheds, and thin out our most beloved snowpack, concluding that our attractiveness as a place to live and work is also threatened, and so is our economic competitiveness as a major metro area and a state, compromising our recent gains in income and property values.
Renewable energy.
In December 2011, Buffett's Mid-American Energy Holdings agreed to buy a $2 billion solar energy project under development in California and a 49% stake in a $1.8 billion plant in Arizona. He already owns wind farms and these are his first forays into solar power.
Expensing of stock options.
He has been a strong proponent of stock option expensing on the income statement. At the 2004 annual meeting, He lambasted a bill before the United States Congress that would consider only some company-issued stock options compensation as an expense, likening the bill to one that was almost passed by the Indiana House of Representatives to change the value of pi from 3.14159 to 3.2 through legislative fiat.
Klamath River.
American Indian tribes and salmon fishermen sought to win support from Warren Buffett for a proposal to remove 4 hydroelectric dams from the Klamath River. He had David Sokol respond that the FERC would decide the question.
Google and Facebook.
In May 2012, Buffett said he avoids buying stock in news social media companies like Facebook and Google because it is hard to estimate future value. He also stated that initial public offering, IPO, of stock are almost always bad investments. Investors should be looking to companies that will have good value in 10 years.
Books about Buffett.
Numerous books have been written about Warren Buffett and his investment strategies. In October 2008, USA Today reported that there were at least 47 books in print with Buffett's name in the title. The article quoted the CEO of Borders Books, George Jones, as saying that the only other living persons named in as many book titles were U.S. presidents, major world political figures, and the Dalai Lama. Buffett said that his own personal favorite is a collection of his essays called The Essays of Warren Buffett, which he described as a coherent rearrangement of ideas from my annual report letters as edited by Larry Cunningham. Some best-selling, or otherwise notable, books about Buffett. Carol J. Loomis, Tap Dancing to Work, Warren Buffett on Practically Everything, 1966-2012, a Fortune magazine book, Preston Pysh, Warren Buffett's 3 favorite books. An interactive book that references http://www.buffettsbooks.com for online videos, Roger Lowenstein, Buffett, Making of an American Capitalist, Robert Hagstrom, The Warren Buffett Way, Alice Schroeder, The Snowball, Warren Buffett and the Business of Life. Written with Buffett's cooperation, Mary Buffett and David Clark, Buffettology in 4 subsequent books. Combined sales of more than 1.5 million copies. Janet Lowe, Warren Buffett Speaks, Wit and Wisdom from the World's Greatest Investor, John Train, The Midas Touch, The Strategies That Have Made Warren Buffett America's Preeminent Investor, Andrew Kilpatrick, Of Permanent Value, The Story of Warren Buffett. The longest of the books about Buffett, with 330 chapters, 1,874 pages and 1,400 photos, weighing 10.2 pounds, Robert P. Miles, 2004. Warren Buffett Wealth, Principles and Practical Methods Used by the World's Greatest Investor. John Wiley & Sons. ISBN 978-0-471-46511-9. John P. Rees, The Guru Investor, How to Beat the Market Using History's Best Investment Strategies. Includes step-by-step stock-picking method based on Buffett's approach. Janet M. Tavicoli, Dear Mr. Buffett, What an Investor Learns 1,269 Miles from Wall Street, John Wiley & Sons, 2008, ISBN 978-0-470-40678-6.
Bibliography.
The Essays of Warren Buffett, Lessons for Corporate America, Warren Buffett and Lawrence A. Cunningham, The Cunningham Group. Revised edition, April 11, 2001, ISBN 978-0-9664461-1-1. The Essays of Warren Buffett, Lessons for Corporate America, 2nd edition, Warren E. Buffett and Lawrence A. Cunningham, The Cunningham Group. 2nd edition, April 14, 2008, ISBN 978-0-9664461-1.